Adam, what's going on, man?
What's up, guys? Yeah. Thank you for having me on the program. Really appreciate it. Yeah. No, I appreciate it. Can I real quick before we start, and I do have some thoughts on Ryan Poles' press conferences. I just want to give Steven a quick shout out. I mean, I think anybody who watches the show understands that pretty much everybody affiliated with the show is a grinder and grinding away, especially for the last month or so since training camp started. But Steven is especially the last few days. I mean, between the 85 and this show, 2 episodes yesterday, up all night editing, all that stuff. I just want to make sure that our entire CHGO community understands that the work Steven Nicholas has been doing behind the scenes, because it's been a lot and it's appreciated.
Yeah,
appreciate that, Hoge. But I got to say, like, obviously it's been a lot of work, but Braggs helped me out. He just learned how to do YouTube shorts. I would not have been able to do the 85 if he wasn't doing those for me. So it's a full team effort.
That's what we do.
Obviously, doing 3 shows yesterday. I mean, it's why what we're doing is working. So yeah, thanks to everyone.
Hell yeah.
At least for one more week, one more Hard Knocks episode, and then we're never doing 3 shows on the same day ever again.
Unless there's breaking news or something crazy happens.
Yeah.
But we'll be equipped to do that. But Adam, you said you wanted to give your thoughts on Ryan Poles and what he had to say. What are you thinking about?
Well, did you guys bring up Keenan Allen yet?
We did not.
I do not want to like sound off alarm bells, but I didn't. There was a conversation about that earlier today, by the way.
Yeah, that's right. We all knew I was going to be the first to mess that up.
Yeah. I just didn't. Okay, it was such a weird answer. Keenan Allen not practicing. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to play week 1. Like, so no concern there, but that doesn't mean I have to love what was said today. So Ryan Poles said, and this is the direct quote, he had last week like a cleat issue, some discomfort in his foot, but he should be fine. Now, I just want people to understand that Keenan Allen last year was dealing with a foot issue, and it's his own words where he said, had they been playing for more at the end of the season, he probably could have, fought through it and played. Like if they were in the playoffs, he would have been playing and all that.
Right.
So I don't know, just to start week 1 hearing foot issue, I just don't think is ideal. I also think it's something he will grind through and play through and be fine probably. But, at his age, this has been the theme of what we've been talking about with Keenan Allen. And so, yeah.
Well, I mean, and they asked him, like, do you think Kevin Byard will play week 1? And he said, yes. And then they asked him, will anybody on the roster not make it for week 1? And he said, we'll have to see. So it wasn't the same adamance. Now you're talking about 52 other players as opposed to just being direct about 1.
Yeah, I don't think that applied to Keenan as much as it might apply to Zach Pickens, might apply to Ryan Bates. And Flus got asked that same line of questioning earlier and sort of said yes, like everybody should be good. And it was one of those things where I'm like, I'm not sure I fully buy that. So, hey, this is why injury reports exist. And we'll know next Wednesday when that injury report a week from today comes out, who's dealing with what and if they're practicing or not practicing.
Yeah, and hopefully that bike squad gets a little lower in the numbers. There were still a few guys that were, riding the bikes, becoming a part of the cycling club. So hopefully that number does kind of get a little lower as, we get to that Wednesday where we finally get to know some of those injuries. What else, Adam, when you think about Ryan Poles or even Matt Eberflus, or obviously we heard TJ Edwards and Cole Kmet speak today as well.
Yeah. I thought his comments on Matt Eberflus were very interesting. I think this has been an really important offseason for Matt Eberflus. I'm not sure anyone, quite frankly, has won this offseason as much as Flus has, except maybe Ryan Poles, because Ryan Poles has certainly made everyone very happy with the acquisitions he's made. But, I just think fans have had to take a leap of faith, right, with Flus. We've known from the start how much Poles believes in this guy, and even in January of last year, when there's that 48-hour deliberation, I think we all thought Flus was coming back, but it wasn't a slam dunk there for a couple days. And I still think there was somewhat of a leap of faith that was given even within the organization that was like, okay, this is your guy. We'll let you see it out. But I do think it's important that we saw results. And I think this offseason has been really impressive for Flus. And, as you see what Paul said today, I think his resilience for where our roster was and for how far we knew it had to go to set a standard and hold everybody to that is extremely difficult. We see impatience in the NFL across all sports, but in the NFL a lot, where when you're going to tear something down, it's not just about the guys you bring in to play football for you. It's about the culture you set and the standards you set. And if you're going to hit the reset button on the coach 2 years in, and this is why when we were having these discussions back in January, I understood where the criticism was coming from. I just thought it was a terrible idea to reset everything because it would have just set everything back for at least one more year. So I think most people are starting to see these results, understand where Flus is coming from, where this hits principle can take you. All that being said, we haven't had a single regular season game played yet. So let's see. I'm still very, very interested to see what happens the first time this team faces adversity. It's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be next week. I don't know if it's going to be in October, but it's the NFL and something's going to happen. And how these guys respond to that will really be the test of everything we're talking about here with the head coach.
And you know what, Paul, obviously he highlighted that as like a positive. They went through those tough times so that, when the winning does come, it'll be that much better because they went through those tough times. And TJ Edwards was also asked about a very similar question, like going through those fourth quarter losses, like, does that pay off? And well, at the beginning of this offseason, we saw the Bears practicing those 2-minute drills, how to kind of go about them to be on the winning side of those things. So you have to experience that failure like the Bears did last season to hopefully put you in a better position when you have a better roster, more equipped to, handle those fourth quarter close games to come out on the other side of it. So I liked how he phrased that and using that negative as a positive. But again, we need to see that play out on Sundays when this regular season is actually playing out.
Yeah, I've got 100%. A few more. Yeah, I've got a few more thoughts on Flus, but I'm going to save it because I'm pretty sure you probably got a few more thoughts on what you heard today.
Yeah, I think too, I don't know that we ever have a Ryan Poles press conference where someone doesn't bring up Patrick Mahomes. I always find that interesting. But yeah, he did acknowledge there's a lot of comparisons out there between Caleb and Patrick. I just thought it was an interesting quote when he was talking about with Patrick. He said, when the pressure went up, he was calm. And then when it was time to do something special, he was able to do it and connect. I also think we probably don't talk about it enough. He really gave opportunities for special players to be special. I think that's what took it over the edge. And I think when you hear what also Flus said, I think that was today, I'm losing track of days, where he was like, on early downs, we really need Caleb to be a point guard.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He can go out and be a hero when they need him to be a hero. And that's kind of the Patrick Mahomes playbook. Like Mahomes has all these unbelievable plays on third downs, fourth downs. Like when he needs to step up and do something Superman-esque, he does it. But almost lost in all that is on early downs, he's just distributing the ball. He's getting it into Travis Kelce's hands. Whoever his weapons are, and maybe the last couple of years because he doesn't have Tyreek Hill anymore, he's had to do a little bit more Superman stuff. But with what Caleb has right now, this is what we're talking about. So this doesn't all need to be on Caleb's shoulders. There's going to be certain points of the game where, yeah, he's going to have to go be Superman. We've already seen that a couple times in the preseason. But ideally, with DeAndre Swift, who we've barely even seen in the preseason, and, to be able to set the tone, run the ball, which I think this offensive line is going to be able to do, and then get it to these weapons that you have. And it honestly should take the pressure off of Rome Odunze too, that he doesn't have to go be the number one guy at the wide receiver position at the same time. If Caleb can do all that, I think the Superman stuff, we all know that exists. Like, it's going to happen. But the real test is, can he just operate this offense and kind of matriculate the ball down the field, just being the point guard for 90% of the time would be great.
And you know, I mean, Greg and I, we were talking about that in the beginning here. And I think that's a good formula, too, to get things kind of established. Again, he is still rookie, a number 1 overall pick, but it's a good formula when you have all these weapons. And you know he can put on the superhero cape at any point. Like, that's the thing. He can do that. But when you have the receivers, the weapons that you have, it doesn't need to be all the time. But again, he was drafted at number 1 overall for a reason, because he has those special attributes. So
yeah,
it's a good formula, I think.
Yeah, and I'm like I was telling Nick, like I'm still curious if this is a bit of a bait and switch. You know, I said that on our last show. Like, you guys know I always get ahead of my skis, but also you talk about Kansas City's offense, but what does Shane Waldron's offense do? And they attacked on 1st and 2nd down more times than not, and they had the 3 wide receivers in Seattle. So obviously this is a rookie quarterback as opposed to Geno Smith, but I think he's fully capable, and I think the talent they have on the outside and in the backfield can win their one-on-ones. And so, you know, I think one of the main verbs that Eberflus said was play calling, you know, and so that doesn't necessarily mean screen passes, you know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just about getting the right matchups and making easy reads, whether those are downfield or across the middle or check downs in the flat. Game calling is going to be the key.
Yeah, I'll just point out, though, that layups can be downfield, too.
Yep.
So DJ Moore beats his guy, and it happens to be a 40-yard completion. That's a play you need to make in the NFL. That's still what I would consider a layup. That's still distributing the football like a point guard. It just so happens that that's your first read. He wins downfield. Boom. The other thing I would just say, too, before I get out of here, like I heard you guys talk about being phase 2. Like, let's not lose sight of that. I do think this is like where the Lions were last year. You want to make that jump.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make the playoffs. You'd love to win your division. That all ended up coming true for the Lions. But at the end of the day, it was still viewed as a successful season for them, even though they blew that lead. They didn't make the Super Bowl, but it was within reach. Now for phase 3, if you look at where their roster is now, they were able to fill in some of those gaps. They signed a couple of guys in free agency. Now I would say the Lions are phase 3, and that's probably realistically where the Bears will have to be next year, but not where they are right now.
Yeah, well, we don't live in realistic island. We live on Meatball Island here at CHGO Bears, whether you guys like it or not. Me and Gritty are taking over this ship, and I'm going to continue to pump hopes and dreams. And then when it doesn't work out, I'll blame somebody else, maybe the head coach.
Well, while we are on Meatball Island, we will let Adam go, and so you don't have to be a part of that right now. But appreciate Adam for coming on.
We all silly like the mayor.